Game of hide and seek going on right now, so I got a few minutes. I'm gonna give you guys an update, a couple announcements, and we're gonna start the video, get you on your way. So number one, we're gonna carry on with our message that we started last year around November, December time frame about being intentional with your time. So we're mostly gonna be putting out information that comes from our coaches meetings or our pastoral meetings. If there's anything that's already been put out by the church, either through email or through the services, we're probably not going to push it again unless it's something that we want to reiterate or there's a deadline coming to. So, if they decide they want to open back up baptismals, we're going to make sure we're pushing that because we want you guys to get baptized if there's people in your groups who aren't. So the next thing is there's going to be a new section in the videos called Coach's Corner. What that's going to be is basically a short 2-minute clip or so of us talking about tips that you can use as a leader or as a coach yourself. Hopefully one day we get some of you guys to be coaches with us. And that goes in your toolbox. Basically you can use it and carry it forward. You can give it to your leaders, your future leaders, so that they can use those tools. If it doesn't apply to you, something that you can't really work with, then feel free to ignore it and move on. The next thing is there's also going to be a message every month, and that's going to be a short, hopefully 5-minute video talking about some lesson that Kara and I want to push to you guys. What this is going to do is reduce our quarterly meetings together. So instead of having to info dump on you guys, we're going to give you bite-sized pieces every month, and then come for our quarterly meetings, we'll have a small section of a message, and then we'll have more time for fellowship with one another. This month's video message might be a little bit longer. It's about 9 minutes, I think, and what some of the stuff I cut out. But it comes from Kira's Devotionals, so we couldn't cut out anything. And it was all needed to be, read as she wrote it. So this one's a little bit longer, but going forward, we're going to try and cut that down. Next thing is, we hope you're enjoying the team building exercise. We are thoroughly enjoying it, more than we thought we would, actually. It's been fun talking with our leaders, and we can't wait to rotate through all of you and get those conversations going. We hope that you're enjoying it as well. The last thing is, feel free to share these videos or any of our other videos that we give to you guys out with any of your members or with any other people that you feel the information is good for. And the last thing is, I'll be putting timestamps in these videos going forward in the bottom in the description box. So if you wanted to go back and watch something, or you just want to skip to, I want to hear this piece, you can click that link in the description box and it'll take you straight to the video portion that you want to see. And with that, let's go ahead and get this thing started.
Romans 12:6-8. In His grace, God has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if God has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it is giving, give generously. If God has given you leadership ability, take the responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. It makes sense, right? If God gave you an ability or gift, use it. But here, God is telling us not only to use our gifts, but use them well. Not just prophesy, but speak out in faith. To serve well, teach well, give generously. It's interesting, though, that He didn't just say to us as leaders to lead well. Instead, He tells us to take the responsibility seriously. Before I move on, I wanted to point out that God does not just say that I only have one gift. I know that God has given me the ability and knack for being organized and to think outside the box. After I took the GDGS class and took the SHAPE assessment, besides being administrative, I found that some of my other gifts were being strong in faith, serving, and giving. It was interesting to identify and be able to recognize these as gifts from God to be utilized to serve His kingdom. It was the combination of all of these gifts that has led me to be where I am today in the ministry and in my life. Whatever gift God has given you, don't just focus on that one gift. Maybe God has given you multiple gifts to use in cooperation with each other to walk out your true calling. You can take the shape assessment for yourself to see in more detail what God has blessed you with, but more on that in a different month. So why not just lead well? To lead well, in the simplest terms for me as an OG leader, would mean to just take attendance, make sure to facilitate discussion, and to ensure we open and close in prayer. But in Romans 12, God tells us through Paul not to just lead well, but to take that responsibility seriously. What does that even mean? How do I apply that as an OG leader and for me as a coach? What does that look like in 2021? Every time I really sit and ponder this question, I always come back to Jesus as the ultimate example. Jesus loved his disciples. When he called each of them, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Matthew, son of Alphaeus.
Yes.
Follow me.
While they were happy just to follow him and listen to him and teach and minister others, Jesus knew that one day they would be doing the same thing. He knew that they were meant to become the apostles and teach others about him and spread the good news. They didn't know, but he did. He had to spend time with them, love on them, encourage them, and grow them little by little until it was time to send them out on their own, commanding them to make more disciples, to do as he did for them. When we think of the responsibility of leading others, and not just our own members, but the church as a whole, I think we tend to think that it's a responsibility that the pastor and other church leaders have, not necessarily us. We think about people like Pastor Josiah. He has the responsibility to shepherd his people, teach us through the Bible, and show us the real life application of those words through his own life. Not necessarily us. But honestly, I think every blood-bought Christian has that same responsibility, but maybe even more for us as leaders. You know, many of the leaders that we coach, including myself, didn't ask for this. I didn't jump up saying, "Here I am, I want to lead an OG." Some of us became the leader of the group because we were the one that filled out the paperwork for the OG, or because Denise or someone else asked us, because no one else would step up. But this was not by accident. God planned for us to be in this position for a purpose. So now that God has put me in this position, as long as I make sure our group meets every week, I'm good, right? As a leader, we all share in the responsibility of leading our flock that God has entrusted to us, to help them grow, to build them up, just as Jesus did to the apostles, so that they can go out and preach the good news. Does that mean as a leader I need to raise every person up in my group to lead their own group? Absolutely not. Not everyone is called to be a leader. But I personally don't know who God has intended to call, so I pour into every member as though they are the next leader. What it does mean, though, is that I need to be an example, so that they can be an example of God's light and love to the world around them. So again, what does that look like in 2021? Well, I think the first part is to be transparent and not afraid to have the hard and uncomfortable conversations. Why is this important? So that my members can see how to do it and even fail at it and have an example when they need to be open and transparent with others. Because you know what's an uncomfortable conversation where it calls to be really open and transparent? Talking to an unbeliever about Christ. But that's exactly what we are called to do as Christ's followers. So, what kind of uncomfortable conversations am I talking about? Tithing. I know that some of my OG members have a hard time tithing. We all do, honestly. We live in Hawaii. But I believe God calls us to tithe, and while 10% off the bat is a lot, I think we should start somewhere. Our OG has some opposing views on tithing in our group, but as their leader, I should remind our members that tithing is not just of our money, it's of our time too. I should be transparent about where I am. Maybe not specifically how many dollars, but at least maybe my percentage, and more importantly, what my intentions and goals are so that I can be held accountable and be encouraged by my group. Serving the kingdom goes along these same lines. While we have helped out financially through the donation drives, I know that there is a bigger opportunity to serve our community out there. As an Ohana group, we should be doing something other than just throwing money at some issues. Yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic, but it doesn't mean that we can't help our community in other ways other than just giving money. But as their leader, I need to go first. I need to show them by example how we can make an impact in our community together. But it starts with me starting the conversation.
We wanted to create a space to be able to share small, hopefully helpful tips for you to use as an Ohana group leader. This month, we wanted to talk about writing out your prayers. Every week at your meetings and throughout your day-to-day, as I'm sure people share prayer requests with you, the prayers start to build up. It can get hard to keep track of all those prayers and who's asking for what. Especially now, for those of you who are doing the team building activities, we're asking everyone to share one prayer request weekly.
Our tip is to write them all down. That way you can keep track of those prayers and be able to pray over each one. It also serves as a reminder to be able to follow up with those who requested the prayer to see if it has been answered yet. The best part about writing it all down is that you're able to look back and see all the answered prayers. So for me, I write them all down in this book. It may look a little familiar to you as we gave each of you one back in October. I write down the date, the person, and the prayer request and just spend time with God, praying over each and every single one of them every Thursday morning.
You remember the parable of the neighbor who was asking for loaves of bread at midnight? The poor guy, he woke up, was already in bed with his kids. Jesus reminded the listeners that the man didn't get up because he was such good friends with the rude neighbor. He got up basically so he would go away and let him get back to sleep. In this very same parable, Jesus tells us to ask and it will be given to us. Seek it and we'll find. Knock and the door will be open. The contrast illustrated by Jesus shows that we should be persistent in prayer not to change God's mind, but to be steadfast in praying to receive our needs.
So again, we encourage you to write them all down and keep on praying over them until they are answered. And that's it for this edition of Coach's Corner.
Alright, so the wrap up. Serve my OG members, my leaders, and everyone around me well. Serve with my whole heart out of my love and appreciation and humility. Encourage others well. Not just as a good job so-and-so for sharing your Devo, but maybe follow up with them one-on-one a few days later to go deeper into how encouraging and insightful their devotion was and encourage them to continue to be in the Word and to Devo. Use the gifts and blessings God has given me well. Give generously of not just my money, but all my resources, including time and self through being transparent and open with others. And finally, not just lead, but to take this responsibility seriously. Remember and understand that it is God who put me and you in this position. He wanted me to take care of this flock that He has entrusted to me, to love them and grow them as Jesus did for His disciples through being an example. He showed us what it was like to live out the Great Commission. Now it's your turn to do the same. Understand that it is our responsibility as leaders and Christians to be the example of living out the Great Commission with not just our OG members watching, but the world around us too.
Got this. Serving the kingdom goes along the... Thanks, Kale.